Hi. During our time of social distancing, we're going to be reading you some stories that we've written. And this one is called The Hair on Her Chin. It was the only hair on her chin. Not exactly on the point of her chin, it was nearby. It was not growing from a mole or wen, and though dark in color, was not thick nor bristly. It was thin and wiry. She was allowing it to grow long. As it grew, it curled, for she often mindlessly played with it, deliberately stroking it now and then in an attempt to see how long it might be. That she had not yet nicked this single hair from her chin with the edge of a straight blade or a sharp knife was due to her belief that if she could pull it out by its root, it would not grow back as it had so often done. That it not grow back was important to her now that she was aging, now that her husband had gone and died. She cursed him for it, but that did little good. He remained absent, and that hair on her chin continued to plague her. When first she'd noticed it, she had removed it, nicked it with a small knife she kept in the pocket of her apron. But it grew back, insistent, determined. It would grow, she would nick. It would grow, she would nick. Once her husband had noticed her peering into the mottled mirror that hung above the wash basin, and had asked what she was doing. "Looking at my face," she had replied. Vanity, he had warned her, was a sin, as if she was vain. She hadn't pointed out to her then living husband that she had this hair growing out of her chin. She was afraid to, for he was nearly as pious as the Reverend Reliant Samuels, who had spent many a Sabbath preaching the sins of Salem, daring witches to come to Ipswich. If Reverend Samuel saw this hair on her chin, he'd think one was already there. If she had told her husband, he'd likely have thought so as well. They'd have had her on the gibbet in no time, her own husband pulling the cart up the hill. Well, she knew what they'd want, the village elders, her land, her orchard, her house. A single woman at a ripe age, 46 and counting, unless they saw this hair on her chin. Then they'd have her and her property too, and she'd be measuring her life in days, not years. She knew what the village elders could be up to. Of the hair on her chin she was not so sure. That wiry strand pushing itself through, what was it accusing her of? Was it lining her up with those who had hairs growing out of their chins? Noses long and curled up at the end, fathomless dark eyes tipped with lashes stubby and thick, the witch women? Her nose was short and pugged, her eyes green, her lashes long and light. But she had this hair growing out of her chin. She had to remove it for good, not just nick it off. Not now. Not with all that had happened. What if she forgot? What if she became so fogged with tending the goats and feeding the cat and pulling the fruit from the trees, drying the herbs and midwifing when asked, and that hair continued to grow and curl and twist itself into the air in front of her because she forgot to nick it off? The wife of Judge Prescott Peabody, who lived nearby, would surely notice and pointed out to their daughter Anne, a nasty child who once called her a witch when she had stopped the child from plucking an apple from that tree on the edge of her property. "You old witch," the child had cried, petulant and cross as she was wont to be, looking at her with loathing and a touch of fear. No, she must be careful. She would take extreme care until that hair on her chin had grown itself so long that her fingers could gain purchase on it. Then she would yank it out, pull its root from wherever it lay deep beneath her well-worn face, destroy it before it destroyed her. That one single hair, the one on her chin.